I think it's very possible that we list the LLM in those places.
Cool. I mean, yeah, anything that can bring further attention to in Leo on a whole.
Consider it's a product, right? It's something that Leo as an ecosystem is selling to the world. So if we bring people in and I would look at like the main question behind anything that Leo does as a team, as a community, as an ecosystem is all centered around NEI, the net economic inflows that we talked about before. Where, for example, this question would be, well, would listing Leo AI's LLM on something like Hugging Face or other sites in order to attract potential subscribers to Leo Premium so that they can access that AI model, would that add economic inflows? And obviously the answer is yes. If you get 10 more subscribers out of something, well, now you've increased NEI by, 10 subscribers times $10 a month is $100 a month. So anything that increases NEI is something that we should.
All right. So staying on that topic, I see a question that's funny. Carefree says slightly off topic, but it turns out now it's on topic. Says, is there still interest in sponsoring local events? Obviously, if they appear to be a net positive. I know the people over at the Atlanta Blockchain Center. They always have projects presenting there and pretty good turnouts.
Yeah, again, if something is a net economic inflow to Leo, I think we should consider doing it. So I think if you can find a very material positive impact, then it should be done.
Well, if by any random chance you end up doing an event in Atlanta, let me know. The cat maybe would come.
I think this is a big reason that LeoStrategy is looking to expand to the Base blockchain. So they're building the bridge for LSTR and Surge to go to Base. I assume that future products down the line will be simultaneously launched on Hive Engine and on Base. So keep in mind that when something's offered on Hive Engine, that is a very niche market. I mean, there is very low activity on Hive Engine. I think if you looked at the actual human doing things on Hive Engine, it's also less than 1,000 on the entire layer 2. So I think going to something like Base is a huge deal. You're talking about millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of unique accounts interacting on a daily and monthly basis. So the market, it's essentially like saying we've got this, we've got the Atlantic Ocean right here, and we've also got this puddle in the sidewalk. Hive Engine is the size of that puddle, and you've got the Atlantic Ocean. So you can put your sailboat in the little puddle, and you'll obviously only be able to go so far. Or you could build a bridge where you can take your sailboat from the puddle to the ocean, and now you can plug into a world of, essentially infinite expansion, or very near infinite expansion. And by the way, that Atlantic Ocean is getting, 10x bigger every couple of years, right? Like it's still expanding. It's not done growing. So it is a flurry of potential economic activity that can come from being on the Base blockchain. And I think that's why LeoStrategy is very focused on getting over there as soon as possible. So keep in mind that Surge, LSTR, even Leo itself being on Hive Engine, that is a very small puddle to operate in. The expansion to other chains is really necessary. Also, the holder base of Leo, kind of on that same topic, is expanding massively. If you actually track Leo on Maya protocol, there's a lot of new unique wallets that are starting, and I've obviously been tracking this. There's a lot of unique wallets that have been buying Leo, and that's because of the growth of LeoDex. Because now you have this whole set of users that are they've never even heard of Hive. They're out there trading cross-chain, and they're like, hey, well, I've been using LeoDex, and you guys are building a great interface. Obviously, they read things like the $10 billion, market cap plan, and they're like, well, shit, you're a $4 million market cap right now. I'll roll the dice with you. Will you achieve 10 billion in 10 years? It's worth throwing $100 or $1,000 at. So we've been seeing more holders jump into Leo on Arbitrum through LeoDex than we've ever seen before. I mean, the growth rate of unique holders for Leo is growing faster now than it ever was in the past. We've got perpetual futures that are launching, any day now. And I think that will attract a whole new market of users as well.
Well, and that's what's important for a goal of big growth is there actually needs to be an addressable market that you have access to. Crypto, in a lot of ways, is super segmented because you have all these different chains, right? And that's why cross-chain has become so important and so popular. But in order to have a bigger market share, a bigger user base, you can't just be on one chain unless, I guess, you're sitting on Ethereum or something where that market's big enough. If you can access all of them and all those potential users, why would you not? Why limit the growth? Right. Speaking of LeoDex, we'll end with this last simple question. Monk Masters asked, will Surge and LSTR be tradable on LeoDex since base chain is on there?
You will be able to trade them right away on LeoDex. As soon as those pairs are launched on base, you'll be able to trade Surge and LSTR with pretty much any crypto through LeoDex. And that is thanks to our Rango and Relay routes, which will make those possible. I think also a kind of long-term future is that LeoStrategy, since it's going to be on base, we'll be able to connect with a lot of different base DEX and protocols. Also, Thorchain has the base blockchain, obviously. There's going to be some interesting connections that can happen in terms of what can be done. So I think it's going to be really interesting. I think one of the big things I'm watching too is the growth of LSTR and Surge on base, having those liquidity pools on there, and then having the bridge operated, by LeoStrategy between base and Hive Engine creates arbitrage opportunities for their market, which will create revenue, and all that revenue then buys more Leo, expands the balance sheet, and the expanding balance sheet then allows LSTR and Surge to scale in terms of price, which then creates more volatility, which can then be harvested into more profit, which then can buy more Leo and expand the balance sheet further, and it just repeats itself. So I think a huge moment is coming with LSTR and Surge on base. I know that they're working really hard on it, looking to get it done as soon as possible. Surge is now 52% sold out last time I checked. In the last 24 hours, over almost 50,000, I think Surge has sold out, which is 10% of the entire presale. As kind of predicted, once we hit that 25% number, it's just been accelerating, the amount of Surge that sells every single day. My prediction is something similar to LSTR is going to happen, where LSTR's presale hit 50% sold out, and within 48 hours, it was completely gone, that final 50%. So I think Surge is kind of hitting that moment. Like last night, there was someone that bought 30,000 Surge who had never bought any Surge before. So I think now it's kind of hit that stride where people realize that it could be sold. You could wake up tomorrow and it's completely gone. So
Yeah.
I think we're at that moment now where it sells out. And I think it's
Well,
really good timing, honestly, because having it sold out before base, I actually think is better than selling out on base. So we'll see what happens, but it's moving faster than I thought it would, which is great.
yeah. And obviously, as it gets sold, I think that's going to also spread out in terms of number of users and number of whales, because
Right.
early on, obviously, the faithfuls are the one that jump on. So it's early innings, so to speak, of selling Surge.
Yeah, and
I mean,
LSTR, in the pre-sale sold out on August 4th, and it sold out at 90 cents per LSTR. That was the pre-sale price. And now LSTR is trading for over $4.
it's wild.
Yeah, so that 1,000 true fans concept is actually, very much amplified by the economics of what's built around here.